Well, hello there. I'm making this video again at work. I won't be able to upload it here. I am planning to go to town tomorrow, and assuming the internet in the pizza place I frequent works, I will be able to upload it there. Uh, Now, even though I can't watch videos on YouTube or really upload them, uh, I do make comments and stuff. And in the sidebar on my last video about Gaddafi and Ron Paul, there was a video, and it said, I believe the title was something to the effect of, if Ron Paul gets his way, Iran will be able to imprison 8 Americans whenever they want, or something like that. Perhaps it was in the sidebar of a separate video, I don't know. Obviously, I couldn't watch it, but the gist of the video was that Ron Paul doesn't care about Americans, and he's anti-American because he's not going to take a hard line against Iran and these 8 Americans that they imprisoned. Now, I don't know a great deal about the situation with the 8 people in Iran who were arrested. I have it on from Scott Horton, who is sometimes actually considered an apologist for Iran, although he's not. But he's an anti-hawk. I heard him say that that the guys are innocent. He's actually interviewed one of them apparently, and that it's just Iranian fascism basically. And I'm inclined to think that that's at least likely. I don't really know the details though. However, what I think is interesting is the glaring omission here, because let's assume that these 8 Americans are innocent and this is a horrible thing that's happened to them, and Iran is bad for doing it. And there's 8 of them, right? So how many Americans did the U.S. government put in prison, I don't know, in the last 10 minutes? Probably a whole hell of a lot more than 8. It's got to be in the thousands per day, if not more. And the vast majority are in for victimless crimes. They are mostly drug-related, but also all the speeding tickets, all the tax evaders, and a large proportion of these are people that Ron Paul would prefer not be put in prison. And actually, as president, he would actually, and this is something I haven't heard anybody say yet, he would have the power to pardon these people. And were he ever to be elected, I think one of the greatest services he ever could do to civilization would be to unilaterally pardon every nonviolent criminal, all tax evaders, all drug criminals, all that. And not only would he be setting them free, which would be the number one thing, the number one benefit, he would essentially nullify any attempts while he was president to prosecute people. But there'd be no point. Why would you prosecute a drug person if the president is going to pardon them as soon as you convict them? It would be a waste of time and money. And I suspect that once his presidency ended, however that might happen, that genie would be out of the bottle, and it would be very hard after a couple of years when people realized that that they couldn't be put on trial or arrested for it because they would be pardoned, that they wouldn't want to go back. And so that's kind of a tangent wish list if he gets elected, what I'd like him to see do. But anyway, the point of the video though is to highlight the gross hypocrisy and I would say probably more like blindness on the part of the nationalists and the conservatives out there. And of course, many liberals fall into actually both. Many liberals are actually conservative, and many liberals are, basically all liberals are nationalists. It's their first tenet is worship of the state and its power. So they're almost always going to be good nationalists. But obviously, the American government is far more egregious in its crimes against the American people than is any other foreign state. No other foreign state is even close. The only way, I mean, you could look, even if we look at like World War II and we want to blame the number of Americans killed by, say, the Japanese or the Germans, it's hard because the American government is complicit in those since it got America involved in that war. And even if we just, I don't know, don't give them the benefit of the doubt, and don't attribute those deaths. They're still way up on the list of, they imprison way more people. They obviously steal far more. I mean, how much does Ahmadinejad steal from the American people? Like practically zero. How much does the federal government steal? Isn't it like $240 billion per month? You know, and all the people who are in prison. So I think a lot of it is just blindness on the nationalists' part. They don't see the, I don't want to use the cliche, but the gun in the room when it's Uncle Sam with the gun. You know, they see it when Ahmadinejad has not a gun, but a fly swatter. They see that, and that's, ooh, he's bad. But the federal government especially, but actually all of them, are far worse. They do far more damage to this country. I mean, all the damage Al-Qaeda did in 9/11 is done many times per day by the federal government in its regulatory and its tax structure. Our economy is in a quagmire of where it could and should be. And I'm not just talking about like the depression right now because of the Fed and all that. I'm talking about just in general, even in the good times, the damage they do is almost incalculably huge. And, you know, part of actually that, I mean, by making us poorer and making us less wealthy and less free, actually that does actually cause death. Now, it's really hard to point that, but if you just think about how much all the resources that the government takes in, if all those resources were back in society, there would actually be less mortality and there'd be a higher standard of living. I couldn't tell you how much, no one can, but obviously it would be some. It would be more than 8. It would be a lot more than 8, and so I wish people would not be blind. I don't know why this is. Well, it's so easy to see the flaws in Ahmadinejad, but not in Uncle Sam. When, you know, Obama, no one here, how many Americans really know Obama? None of them. How many of them really know Ahmadinejad? None of them. They're really, in truth, as foreign to you as any other 2 people on earth. And so why anybody would, I don't know, be cozy and comfortable and trusting of one, but then extremely skeptical and cynical towards the other, it doesn't strike me as really making that much sense. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say about it other than it's a glaring problem. It's kind of dumb. I mean, when you just compare the 8, that's, oh, he wants the 8, and then the thousands and thousands per day. What is it, 1 or 2 million now? I always was hearing 1 million, but you know what? That was like half a decade ago. Now it's probably twice that of Americans who are in jail, and they're not all murderers and rapists. Only a tiny fraction are arsonists. Most of them didn't hurt anybody, and they didn't steal anything, and so they shouldn't be in prison. And then of course, the crime on top of that is they're taxing all the rest of us who are, you know, the lucky ones who haven't been thrown in prison. We got to be taxed to pay for it anyway. So we're being robbed to imprison non-robbers for non-crimes on an order of magnitude that just doesn't even bear mentioning the 8 that Ahmadinejad threw in prison. So, all right, that's it.